Anyone planning on flying will have their temperature taken before boarding a flight. Just one of the new measures airports are taking as they try to prevent the spread of COVID-19. CBC's Natasha Fatah is on the story. So what are travelers in for, Natasha?
Good morning, Suhana. So now if you are a Canadian domestic traveler, boarding a flight or exiting a flight at the 4 biggest airports in this country, these are the international airports in Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, and Calgary, you will have to go through a temperature screening before you get on your flight. Now, some of the airports had already been doing this before the mandatory order came into place, but as of today, you must do it. This was an edict that was passed down earlier this summer from Transport Canada. And essentially, it's a screening measure, another way to keep people safe as they're traveling in this country. And for many, it's a necessary measure because just last week, the federal government says there were 30 domestic flights in this country where there was at least one confirmed case of COVID-19 on board the flight. So the mandatory rules come into effect at those 4 airports today, and this is how it works. Before you get on the flight, you will have your temperature taken. And the way they do that so that it's less invasive is that they can take it through a scanning camera on a stand or by a contactless handheld thermometer. If your temperature is at 38 or below, then it's fine. There's no problem. You could proceed onto the plane. But if it's higher than that, then you have to go into a waiting area and stay there for 10 minutes. Then you get a second screening. If you don't want to do the second test, you cannot board the flight. And then if you do the second test and you're still above the 38 degrees, well, you are not getting on board that flight and you can rebook after 2 weeks. There is no negotiation and there is no third screening, Suhana. So people better pay attention and they better make sure they're healthy before they get to the airport.
Just how effective are these temperature checks, though, Natasha?
Well, it really depends on one's perspective. So the argument becomes, well, it's just another measurement to keep people safe. But others would argue, well, is it a matter of actually keeping people and passengers safe, or is it making them feel like they're going to be safe? And it actually doesn't do very much. There is quite a bit of skepticism about the temperature screenings. We've heard it from some of the leading health officials in this country. Let's have a listen to a couple of them now.
The more you actually understand this virus, the more you begin to know that temperature taking is not effective at all.
We also know that you have to get lucky, right? You have to have the right temperature at the right place at the right time. And something that we don't often talk about is people know that there's temperature checks and they can take medications to reduce their probability of having a fever during travel.
Now, even though at this stage it remains to be seen whether, in fact, this will help decrease the number of COVID cases in this country or prevent people from getting it, all of those airports have to do it starting today, those 4 airports. And before or on September 30th, 11 other major airports in this country will have to also comply. So this is something we're going to see increasingly taking place. And again, the distinction with today's decision or mandate is that it's for domestic travel as well, Suhana.
Thank you, Natasha. CBC's Natasha Fatah in Toronto.